What's up, guys? Welcome back. Thanks for checking out the channel again today. We've got our last video in our trilogy covering the Spartan scenarios for SPQR. So let's jump right into it. So this one is called Breakthrough. So, as is normal, both warbands have the same Denari. The enemy player is the defender, and here the Spartans will be the attacker once again. The defender does get basically half the board to set up in here. The defending player will deploy all their models, and then the Spartan player will basically move onto the table turn one. So the defender will have absolutely no idea about what the Spartan deployment is going to look like because they don't have one. And then the Spartans will also get the first turn, which makes sense here just because you wouldn't want the enemy to get the first turn and then basically really keep you from actually even getting onto the board depending on what they brought. No special rules for this scenario, but victory conditions. So the Spartan player wins by moving at least half of their units, rounding up, off the defender's table edge. Any other result is a victory for the defender, no turn limit. So kind of an interesting one here. So it's not really even about anybody killing anything, but, there's some clarity that needs to be had here. So half of their units, as in like from the start of the game, or half of their remaining units, it doesn't specify. I would have guessed, half of their starting force, half of those units. But again, just little things like that I wish, the writers would have taken time to really clarify there. That being said, for the Spartans, because they lack cavalry, and by and large, most of your army is going to be those heavy hoplites, essentially. You're going to be moving really slow, and not only do you need to get to the opposite edge of the table, you still need to go through your enemy, which now, granted, by and large, Spartans aren't going to have much of a problem defeating what's in front of them, but there will be times where you get bogged down and even potentially lose some units here and there. But the turns that you spend fighting are all turns that you're going to basically struggle to get across the board here. So now, granted, the Spartans get the first turn and get to move on and all that, but depending on what the defender's army is, they have many different ways of basically preventing you from doing that. And really, they're probably going to focus in on your weakest units first, just to start bringing that unit count down, and then try and just keep pounding away at units to basically get you to that below that threshold, at which point the game is essentially over. So the other sort of tricky part for the Spartan player will be, as they get closer, the enemy might just be better off leaving those units alone, because once you're off the table with a few units, they don't need to deal with them. They can't deal with them. So they're just going to maybe let you have a few that squeak through, and then focus on killing the remaining units, basically double, triple teaming, whatever they need to do to stop you. So in many ways, this can be a rough one for the Spartans. But that being said, on the other hand, a lot of your units, depending on, if you don't really let many gaps or anything for the enemy to get through, you can kind of just buzzsaw your way through a lot of their units. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, and sort of different strategies involved there. So, you might try and race ahead with some of your units. Some of them might get bogged down. You might turn to stop and kind of help out those units that get bogged down, because really nothing is going to stand up to the Spartans for overly long. But, all in all, interesting idea here. And that being said, if the enemy can bring something equally defensive or tar pit you for a little bit, obviously a mirror match would be kind of interesting, but Roman armies are probably going to be a tough one. Any other Greek armies that can do phalanx, Macedonians probably would be rough, but you're going to be slow overall again as the Spartans too. So you're definitely going to be wanting to make sure you bring those like musicians or find other ways with your heroes to basically get some extra movement, just so you can get across the board. And again, you probably don't want to split your army up too much, because again, if a few units squeak through, the enemy's going to be fine, but they will put all that extra effort into dealing with your remaining units, and basically severely outnumbering you, and potentially outfighting you as well. So overall, an interesting one for the Spartans. Again, that first one, just to sort of wrap up the trilogy here, definitely had its issues. But I would have liked to see something that would have, scenario-wise, would have maybe represented more the the actual Battle of Thermopylae or something like that, just on the skirmish side, or even more maybe to represent something like Peloponnesian War or something like that. So that being said, of course, you can always create your own scenarios, and we might work on some of our own and feature them on the channel here down the road. But overall, just an interesting one, different contrast of styles, but also, again, could be interesting outside of maybe specifically like playing a campaign with this, testing any other two armies against each other like that, just to see who can sort of get the better of the other player there. But that being said, also the defender has some interesting advantages there, even though they're not going first. But if they can go first turn 2, they can certainly do their best to basically keep you on your side of the board for a while, but you don't want to sort of fire all your ammo right away against the Spartans, because if they essentially cripple you first few turns, they're just going to eventually punch their way to the other side of the board, and there's going to be little you can do to stop them. So you definitely want to pick your targets there. But yeah, overall interesting one and good one to wrap up, I guess, for the Spartans there. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the scenarios here, and maybe your experiences so far. Leave us a like and subscribe if you could as well, if you haven't already. And thanks again for stopping by, guys. Hope you have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.